Chris, back in Israel, Asaf. We just put you on a plane two
Yes,
days ago. When did you get
that's
back?
right. Yeah, yesterday.
That man is
You got
Landed
jet
back.
lagged
yesterday.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I
You got
am
back
in
Wednesday. When did
full jet
when did you
lag.
leave New
Yes.
York?
I left New York Tuesday.
Oh, so one day. Okay.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it in your nose.
This is still
Okay,
Wednesday
so
your time? No, this is
no,
Thursday.
now it's
Okay.
Thursday here. It's Thursday. Oh,
Yeah.
you left Tuesday. Oh, you got back Wednesday. Now it's
Yeah.
Thursday. Okay. We Asaf
Hence
was
the
here. We
jet
had
lag.
we
Yeah.
had an incredible experience. We'll talk about it a little more about building this future society. Friends, welcome to the Great Transition, where we talk about what's going on in our world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. We are here with you every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Listen, people, Earth, our planet, it's rich enough, it's big enough to provide for everybody. Why are we fighting? Why? There's enough of everything for everyone and the end to all of the problems. Why is
Yeah.
everyone struggling to make money and to accumulate wealth? Why? So I can feel safe. So my family will be safe. So I can be happy. So I can have a secure life. So if everyone has food and everyone has place to live and everyone has all these needs, then people aren't rioting. If people are happy and content, then everyone is safe. Then everyone is happy. If the people are fed, if they're warm in the winter, if they're healthy, so then you achieve what you wanted to achieve, and instead of doing it trying to get it from someone else, since everyone has it, it just permeates. We have a situation now. Hindus are fighting against Christians. Buddhists are fighting against Muslims. Christians are fighting against Muslims. Muslims are fighting against Jews. Within Christianity, the Catholics are fighting the Orthodox, and they're fighting against the Protestants. The Boko Haram Islam is fighting against the Christians in Nigeria, and ethnic groups fighting everywhere. Of course, we have, how could we forget, Russia and Ukraine.
Shiites and Sunnis.
Okay, so that's another piece of it. So
Yeah.
not only, for example, are Jews and Muslims fighting, or Christians and Muslims fighting, but within each religion, I saw something that
Yeah.
there's like almost 3 billion Christians, and there's many tens of thousands of sects of Christianity.
Yeah. So you say, yeah, are you Christian? And then they say, what kind? Yeah. Are you this kind? Are you that
And I guess
kind?
in Texas, I'm sure you see that a lot. So in
Yeah.
in Islam, so after Muhammad passed, there was a group of people who said, well, that lineage should pass in his blood, to his kin. And there's another group that said, no, it should pass to, the one that the community elects. And so you have Shia and Sunni. So, between Saudi Arabia, who's friendly with the US, and Iran, which is more friendly with Russia, within the same religion, now they're fighting with each other. Not now.
Yeah.
Within the same religion, they've been fighting with each other. And everybody knows about Ireland, where the Catholics are fighting the Protestants. It's just within the religions. Within Judaism, everyone's fighting with everyone. Within the religions, there's all this fighting.
I had this neighbor. My dad had this neighbor across the street. He was Muslim, and he knew that I lived in Israel, and we kind of hid it from him for a while. And I came to my parents' house to visit, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I love everybody. I love everybody except for the Shiites." And he's like, "I will not do business with them. I love them. You can be from Israel. I don't care." And he sends me all kinds of things, but not the Shiites or whatever. I can't remember what he was, but it's like there's just something in a person that kind of has to hate something. I have to be against something. It gives me, you could see, like, kind of made him feel like it was who he was.
I gotta say, Israel
People,
is also a really prime example of
Yeah, Jews against Jews. Yeah.
Jews against Jews. You've got in Israel, it's such a small country, such a small population, and there are
it's like
serious
6 million,
rifts.
8 million. How many people are there? 10
Altogether, I
million,
think there's 8
12
million
million?
in Israel.
8 million.
Maybe it's closer to 10, but anyway, just among the
Small.
Jewish community, which is not the whole population, there's so many rifts and schisms. Like, it's the left and the right, and the Mizrahi and the Ashkenazi, which is like, Jews that came from Europe and Jews that came from Africa, let's say. And they're Orthodox religious kind of groups. Between them too, of course, there's many factions and divisions. And then, of course, the Orthodox and the secular, huge thing. And all of these things come into play. All of these differences come into play in Parliament and in the media and everywhere. It's a huge, very conflicted population, even though it's so small. Yeah.
It reminds me of how if you go from jellyfish towards more complex organisms, single cell organisms, to like more complex organisms, like this division and division and division. So you have the religions fighting each other, and then within the religions there's smaller groups fighting against each other, like the Shia and the Sunni, or within the Jews. Now also another division here in Brooklyn, there was some Orthodox rabbi, and when he passed, the two sons fight. Like you can even see videos of like on YouTube of the sons groups, the groups within one group of one group, even fighting. People are becoming so insensitive, so intolerant, so uncompromising.
Yeah.
Uncompromising.
That's
and worst.
That's a
combative.
big one. Yeah.
That's a good word. Good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Food is, and compound this with viruses, and compound this. Was it Pakistan that had that giant flood recently?
Pakistan? Yeah, it seems like that was Pakistan.
So with these, with the climate and the viruses, and now food shortages, food is becoming less and less affordable, and there's an issue that there might not be food for some people. So the natural thing is to fight against your enemy. The natural thing is like, he has something I need, or he has a different opinion than me. The natural thing would be to fight. And the results...
Or they're to blame, right? They're the ones to blame. Yeah.
I gotta say, it's also not. I mean, this growth of conflict that proliferates in societies, especially in Western societies, where isn't necessarily yet a problem of resources scarcity, actual scarcity.
Something that's bigger than their little conflicts, right?
Exactly. Still, you see the conflicts are very much around views and ideologies and around race and color and gender. You know what I mean? Like that has become so big, such a huge thing
so huge
in the US, in Israel too, in the West, I would say, mostly in the US probably, but it's become so big, such a incredibly conflicted kind of population, and it was. I don't think it was ever like that. The
Kabbalists have such a unique method to peace.
Yes,
Kabbalah says, we shouldn't expect to agree with each other.
Exactly,
and we shouldn't try to settle all of our differences.
There's actually a point to our differences. Of course we're different. That's the differences are actually the condition for true peace. We just can't get our head around it.
Can you explain what that means? Because we could just keep talking, but that statement is worth like $1 billion. So we need to
how
a little bit.
I don't know if you want to already.
We have to. Okay, so you say the differences are the condition for peace.
Right.
So you have to
because so if you
look at the audience is saying that's total BS, and the other half is saying sounds great. But
so
what the heck are you talking about?
Right. So if you look at a group of fish. You see, say, about 100,000, how do they call it? Anchovita. It's a kind of anchovies.
Anchovies?
Yeah, it's a kind
anchovitas, I guess.
It's a kind of anchovies, fish, that they do this really miraculous thing when they create like a whole ball that, that they swarm and it moves in such a, ridiculously choreographed way. That's how it seems, but there's no choreographer. They have this like swarm intelligence. So if you look at them, they're all the same. They're exactly the same. Even if you look at like they're very, very, very similar. Of course, they're not 100% identical, but the difference between each of them is so small, and they look and move and act, and their life cycle and what they do in their life, in their day, is basically very, very similar. The higher you go up in evolution, creatures become more individuated, more different. We human beings are so different from each other. So Kabbalists are basically saying, look, that's evolution. We're not going to become identical. We're not going to become different. The more you evolve as a human, the more you find yourself different from other people. And if you go back 100,000 years ago, or, even 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, the more you look at past societies, you see humans that were similar to each other in their views, in people who lived closer to each other.
There's not that
pretty
much
had
to do actually every day.
Yeah, they pretty much had the same life. Today
Like,
it's
what did you do on Monday that was different than Tuesday? Or like, what did you do at 8 p.m. on Wednesday that was different than 8 p.m. on
Right.
Or what's wrong with Bob over there? He seems to be like angry at everyone, and he's like messing up the whole tribe. And then the whole tribe is like dealing with Bob because he's gonna mess it up for everybody. And then Bob eventually realizes, yeah, I gotta shape it up, or he gets expelled to Australia. Isn't that what they used to do? They just send people to Australia, or the British used to do that. It was like, it's clear that we're a family, a feeling of like a family. Back then, I'm talking about we have this family. We need to take care of the family. That was like a clear feeling.
and there was a direct relationship between the survival of the tribe or the survival of the group, and how each and every one kind of conformed to what the tribe is and what the tribe does and what it looks like, and even the clothing. We were so similar. The more we evolve, the more individuated we become. Different in our clothing, different in our style, different in our cultures, different in our views, in our ideologies, in our sexual orientations, all kinds. The more we evolve, the more we human beings become different from each other. So Kabbalists are basically saying, just to go back to that point, they're basically saying, look, we're not going to live with each other, to coexist and create peace by being identical. Instead of that, we have to find how each of our different unique qualities complement each other and create this one harmonious organism, specifically because we are different. How? By mutually complementing each other. Complementarity rather than uniformity. That's our path to peace as human beings. So at the moment,
the initial reaction,
yeah.
But when I see, like, it could be in anything. I mean, you get online for 1 second, you could see how you have a different opinion than somebody immediately, and you kind of just like dismiss it, kind of like, forget it. Well, that's someone I'm never going to talk to, or that's something I'll never understand. That's not. Is that a regular person would think, like, is that normal?
The only way, yeah. Well, that comes to education. This is something we should wait 15 minutes to talk about more of how this builds, but there has to be a foundation of education for humanity. That doesn't matter if you're Christian. That doesn't matter if you're Hindu. It doesn't matter what you believe. The same way, for example, you have a pet dog and you muzzle its mouth so it can't breathe. It's not going to be your pet dog anymore. It doesn't matter what religion it is. There's fundamental things. In order to live, you need to breathe. That's the first thing. After that, you need to drink something, some water. That's the next thing. By the time you get to the fifth or sixth thing, you need to understand, every human being needs to understand, I am a creature that needs to that needs to receive things. I need to have food. I need to have air. I need to have this. I need to have this. And if we start to understand these fundamental things, then really, where do our differences lie? Mostly in our mind and our heart. It's not so much all of the corporeal, physical differences that change. That's what makes waterfalls and rainbows and sunshine and snow-capped mountains, like all of the corporeal differences are just our natural qualities. But how it all works together, that's listen, the only way to diffuse all these wars, all these problems, is to create a strong, positive atmosphere. where each one with their own qualities can be, but everybody doesn't feel under attack. So I'm good at doing this, you're good at doing that, but I don't feel that everyone's trying to get at me. And I also don't feel that there's going to be no food on my table when I get home. So everyone is not, because I didn't choose to be like this. You didn't choose to be like that. You didn't choose to be born with ADHD, and this one didn't choose to be born with some kind of math mind that can only doesn't have a lot of feelings, but only thinks like that. We were born with these qualities. It's not. It's like the fish, Josaph. It's the fish you were talking about.
Yeah.
No, no. We don't choose with which qualities we're born, but we exist in this system. We have to come to some kind of agreement that we want to create a strong positive atmosphere amongst everyone. We should agree that we need to develop a good relationship instead of agreeing that we're just going to be at war with each other. We don't have to agree about the terms. We don't have to agree about our differences now. We just need to agree that together we want to build something positive instead of that we are just going to be fighting.
Yeah, and it's constant maintenance, meaning you're really talking about raising the value of unity and peace. That's it, above everything else. So then our differences, our different qualities, our different skills, our different views can all serve this unity that is important above all to all of us. That means we constantly have to maintain that atmosphere, because our natural inclination is to immediately go back to okay, let's just fight each other. Let's just be hostile to each other. That's our instinct. But we got to work above our instinct.
Yeah, but do you think that we're different enough already? I mean, it's like the example that you gave is almost like, okay, we were all the same. And then like it's kind of like a cell. When it divides, then you have two of them, but they're kind of the same, but they're a little bit different, right? But then you chop them up, shake them in a bag, something else comes out again. You do that for generations, just shaking. And then all of a sudden you have something so different. Do you think that we're different enough already? We've like maxed out the differences between us to where we can come to like this actual peace, or do we still have to we're talking to like a wall right now where we...
Said yes. Bala Salam said we're in the last generation. He said, yes, we finished the completion of the development of the material, of a material development, that meaning the last of that, and the beginning of the new cycle of spiritual development. So according to the Kabbalists, we reached that. We're ready.
Yeah. This is the
so
time.
There's nothing else to wait for.
Yeah,
now
there's nothing. Now is the time. And the big indication is how globally intertwined the whole world is becoming, which is unprecedented, never before happened in history. That's where we're going. We're moving more and more towards a reality where the well-being of any nation, any society, any country relies heavily on the well-being of the whole globe. That's where we're going with the climate crises and the pandemics, and I don't think that's the end of them also, as many experts are saying, and the financial system that is so globally intricate. All of those conditions are setting up such a reality where our well-being is completely interdependent, and the more we're going to run against this reality, we're going to find ourselves in a point where, okay, it's either we start caring for each other's well-being, or nothing's going to work, or it's going to be very bad for us. It's simple.
But how do you approach that though? Because let's say that there's definitely a problem we need to solve. Russia, Ukraine, you guys got to figure it out, because we're all suffering because of you. Let's say the winter's coming, right?
Yeah.
Europe, maybe they have some kind of gas, like a lack in natural gas to heat themselves.
Right.
They got okay, so can you take this approach and sit at the table with Russia and Ukraine and say, guys, it's need to know is said here, bury the hatchet. Are we burying the hatchet? Are we saying forget about it? Or are we...
with those guys? I wouldn't start with those guys. I think they're That's already what we would call the branch. There's like root and branch. If so, not only okay. So we're talking here as students of the wisdom, the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah, the method that we received from the Kabbalist Bala Sulam. So what happened? So we have to include that also. It's not just a pragmatic like. I mean, it's not just a some, I don't know, money show or conflict resolution show or nonviolent communication show here. We're talking about the wisdom of Kabbalah. What happens when those like us and those who are with us, the people who start to feel that there is a need for this, that's who we start with. The people who feel this need first. When those people start to do this, start to say, we don't need to agree about all our differences, and we don't need to settle all our differences, but it's more important that we figure out how to unite together. What happens? This is very, very special. We draw upon ourselves positive, constructive forces from the system of nature.
Right.
And then our eyes will see things that we didn't see before. We'll think of ideas that we'll hear things that are in the air now.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you had an idea? Asaf has that story that I think Asaf, you said that whoever it was, discovered whatever. All of the discoveries come from some idea that came out of the air. So all of the what will exist, what will be available to us in the air when these positive forces are coming to us after making these connections, that will start to affect the system. That's when we could see changes. But we're not going to sit down with Putin after 60 years of him working to get to the place he's at now and try and convince him that it would be better if he was nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me try to because that's what Seth, what you just said was really inspiring to me. I have a very clear feeling inside of exactly that. I don't know if I can make it more tangible that you did, but when we are focused on connection, we actually begin to see reality differently. And what does that mean? That means that all our differences, they're there for a reason. The fact we are very opposite and different and conflicted and individuated, all those different qualities that we have, they're there in order to connect, to create a more unique connection between us. So it's like, organisms in a body, right? So our body, it's not just that we have trillions of cells that are working harmoniously. They're connected to groups that are doing very different roles, opposite functions, even completely opposite. Between the liver and the kidneys and the heart and the muscle cells and the skeletal cells.
One's trying to get rid of bacteria, the other one's trying to preserve the bacteria.
Exactly. So you could say, so you could ask yourself a question like, how could it be that the left, people on the left and people on the right will ever, coexist, will ever find peace? How could it be that, this religion and that religion will ever, find peace? How could it be that the secular people and the religious people, you can think about it that way. And this is truly what our egoistic lenses see, that these things can't come together. But when we actually elevate this goal of unity and connection and peace between us above our whatever we are, whatever differences we have, we don't eliminate them, then, like Seth said, we begin to uncover a new reality, a new picture. We can then begin to see, this cell can do this kind of job. This cell can do this kind of work. And if they work together, we become this new collective thing, And in a family, think about, in a family, obviously people are different. You're not the same as your brother and your sister and your mother and your father and so on. But somehow that family, if it sticks together, it becomes a unit. And maybe they can even find a way that these differences they have complement each other and there's a certain beauty, like a bouquet of flowers, that comes from all of the different colors and different shades that creates a new level of harmony. So that's the reality we don't see through the egoistic lens. And when we start raising the importance of connection between us, when we start aiming towards unity, and that's the kind of people who are drawn to the wisdom of Kabbalah, that's what they're doing, then we actually begin to unlock that picture that of the more advanced level of connection, harmonious connection that can exist between humans.
Like it's just clear. It's all of a sudden it's clear. Like listen, today my son gave me this piece of paper. I was looking at the paper, and it's one of those puzzles. Like there's like 4 or 5 numbers in a row. One is the mystery number, and then there's like another number after that, and it's like find the pattern, figure it out, like what number is there, and then right underneath it said think outside the box. And I'm looking at this thing for like 5 minutes. I don't know. I was like, what is this pattern? I have no idea. And then my wife got mad. She was mad at me because I didn't figure it out in like a second. She took it from me, she turned it upside down and handed it back to me, and you see it immediately. You see that it's written like upside down in a way, and if you only look at it upside down, then you can see the pattern. It's like that. It's like, oh, you just need like, it's like one extra like variable. It's just inverting it, just turning it upside down. You can look at it all day, and all it takes is just this one extra little change, and then it becomes so clear. Like it was there the whole time, but it's so clear all of a sudden. It's just like it's like nothing. I didn't get smarter. It's just
When we say that you'll hear things that you didn't hear before, or see something that you didn't see before, that's what it is. It's already here. The whole thing is already here, but something has to happen and then it's revealed to you. So there's not like we have to invent any. That's the almost one of the coolest parts about this whole thing. We don't need to invent anything.
That's what makes it the most real. Like that's what's like that has to be true then.
We're talking about laws of nature. That's the bottom line. Baal Sulam, emphasizes this in the peace article, right? It's in the peace article, I think, which is an interesting thing. It's actually the peace article where he writes extensively about peace in the world, and he goes into the Russian example and why communism was, not something that can work according to the laws of nature. What was, what's missing in that, and why, on the other hand, just being competitively hostile to each other is not going to work. Also, when we're seeing that in our world today. And there in that article, he goes there and says, look, let's define what we're talking about when we're talking about godliness that appears between people, or the creator, or the upper force, however you want to call it. We're talking about the complete program of nature. And he emphasizes that and says, look, that's what we mean when we're, as Kabbalists, when we're talking about any kind of godly peace between people, we're simply talking about laws of nature that we just haven't uncovered yet. That's it. That's all we need to do. Humans have to find what is the right configuration in which they can be towards each other, not eliminating their differences, but finding how to put them together in a certain way that this light can flow, so to speak, meaning that nature's harmonious forces can begin to appear between them. Carl Sagan said beautifully that the beauty of a living thing is not the atoms that go into it, but the way those atoms are put together. This is something that scientists see in all other levels of nature as well, and Kabbalists are simply seeing this on the human level. It's just the extension of the same organizing principle. That's what we have to find.
It's just so confusing if you look at it with your eyes. It's just so confusing. It's so not that.
Yes. Yeah. Through our individual eyes, we just can't see it. Yeah.
He calls it the Kavem Tsai appears, that middle line appears. So the same way that we have now left force and a right force, which you could talk about the proton and the electron inside an atom, but you could also see in the United States, the Democrats and the Republicans.
It's everywhere throughout nature. It's male and female. It's minus, plus, and minus. It's ebb and flow. It's inhale and exhale, and it's also left and right in politics. It's anything. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so when we start to make this inner effort, not that we're building a wall or constructing a Senate building or something like that. But above our differences, when we begin to agree that we need to find this unity, the appearance, the revelation of this middle line appears for all of us.
Right.
And he says, like you just said, it's not godliness. It's another force of nature, just like there is the force of minus, and just like there is a force of plus. We can call it left and right, Democrat, Republican, electron, proton, hot and cold, inhale, exhale. Just as there are those two, a third force becomes revealed that was there, but you just didn't see it on your lower level of existence.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is that middle line doesn't exist without the left and the right. There is no middle line except when they merge in a unique way. There's no way for us to reveal that middle line, that pattern of harmony, that pattern of connection, that pattern of godly unity, however you want to call it. There's no way for us to disclose it, to perceive it, without bringing those two opposite forces together within us, first of all, and then in our societies as a reflection. But that's the beautiful thing. It's like it doesn't exist unless we bring the opposites together, and then we see how it was already there. It was always there. That's the beautiful thing about it. Yeah.
Kabbalah is not philosophy, and Kabbalah is not theory. This is all very, very practical. We're not sitting around just talking about these things, pushing hot air out of our faces every day. We engage in this daily, regularly amongst us. This past weekend, we had an event which was a mini model.
Who's we?
Of this.
Who's we?
This weekend we had who was there. We built together a mini model of this future world. We had about 100 people were there physically. We got together in New York. That's why Asaf was over here in the States. And there was friends there from all over the world. It's so unique how nature arranges that. Also, registration is open. Anyone can come. What we ended up getting, there was like 100 physically and about 200 virtually. But every color, every religion, it's weird.
Age groups too.
You would never pick like
yes,
like that.
So diverse.
It's such a beautiful thing. I was talking to my wife yesterday, just sharing some impressions. Probably gonna do more of that today after the show. And because my wife loves the details, and I'm just bad about the details. Usually but I'm just like immediately talking about the principles or what. But anyway,
the summary conclusion.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the big thing. And he's like, yeah, but tell me the details. Who was there? Anyway, she gets out all kinds of details from me. And then I started thinking about it as we were talking yesterday. I'm like, look, first of all, answer to, I think Chris wanted us to say out loud to those that it's not clear to them, Kabbu, which is our, right? So, okay, Kabbu, which is our, the online learning center for sharing the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah with the world in the English language, has an annual retreat. And that's what we call the Kabbu retreat, and that's the event we're talking about that took place a couple of days ago. So anyway, so I spoke to a bunch of people who came, and it's so amazing that one moment I'm not gonna name names just to keep people's private lives out of this, but I'm talking to this guy who's an older guy. Who was a chiropractor at the retreat, who practiced had a chiropractic clinic for like 30-something years, and we're talking about how he found Kabbalah and what led him. And I'm talking to this 25-year-old guy who, you know, all his life had a burning question of where am I, what am I, you know, what is the meaning of life for, and always, you know, found himself like searching until he came to this wisdom. And I'm talking to this lady who's like a, you know, middle-aged lady who lost her son. Very, very tragic kind of story, and she has her own story. We had a very moving and intimate conversation about how she came to the wisdom of Kabbalah, and how that like elevated her perception on life and everything that happened to her personally as well, to a completely different level. And you see how could it even be that in the same event, you know, in the same you're actually seeing the connecting thread, the unifying element, the natural kind of tendency of nature to bring together these very, very different people from
So
different
beautiful.
walks of
Yeah.
life, with different life stories and challenges and different professions
Right, because
and skills.
but if you leave it up to the egoistic guy, if you say, hey, go choose some people you want to, you know, attain that upper force of nature with, you're not going to go choose these people. You're going to do it according to
Exactly.
your own qualities, right? Yeah.
Exactly, but what the creator does, meaning what nature does, this unifying force that
Developing
leads,
force.
the developing force, yeah, the guiding force, the governing force of nature, that essentially what it does in evolution is gradually creating more diversity and then more connection, more diversity and more connection. That's essentially the process of evolution from a Kabbalistic perspective. You see more individuation, more integration, and that builds new levels of life. So what it does with human beings, and you see this in an event like the Kabyu retreat, you see how it brings, like Chris said, specifically people who are different and have a different observation and a different and I'm sure if you ran the you know, kind of the survey on like what are your habits, what are your psychographics, like your interests, your political preferences, you'd see like a microcosm. You'd see the entire world in that, even in just that crowd of a few hundred people. Why? Because that is what's required, those differences, those individual traits coming together to find a higher level of unity, not by being uniformly the same, not by being identical, but by finding how to complement each other and how to aim for unity, each from their own unique singular point of observation. That is what nature is doing in such an event, and discovering that is just a feeling that it moved me to tears. It moved me to took my breath away. It's just, I cannot describe that.
What do
This,
you do? What are you doing there to awaken those?
Yeah. So
yeah,
this is this is what we do. I mean, in a sense, that's what we're doing on the show here. But this is what we do as Kabbalists. First thing is we receive the method, we receive the books, so we talk about those things in the most in a language that's clear. But what are we talking about? The laws of nature. First of all, one of the things we do every day is we sit together after we've eaten together, we come together, we sit together and we learn a little bit about life in small doses, something about life, a course about plus and minus. For example, in nature, in us, in our thoughts, in the relations between, something that is common to everyone. And then what do we do after that? We have lunch, we sing some songs together, have lunch. Then we come back, we learn something about the ups and the downs, just as everything else in nature has ups and downs. So our feelings, same thing, up and down. So one of the fundamental things we do is we learn together about laws of nature, that it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. The same thing is happening inside of you. In all of the human creatures, that same thing is happening. So one of the main things is this kind of education. And because we're all modern creatures and most people don't want to sit and study, so it's done in an entertaining way. It's done in a fun way. So our instructors from Kabi make video clips, nature clips, tell these things in a That's most of our work. The Kabbalists gave us the method. Most of our work is how can we communicate this in a way to that is understandable. And then the next thing that happens after that is we talk about it together in smaller groups. And here is where maybe we could talk a little bit about like how we, so when we do these, when we sit and talk about it in a circle, we come up with some kind of rules. This is how we're going to have this workshop together.
Right. You want to talk about that?
So
You want to talk about what happens in
yeah,
in a
let's
workshop?
talk about what happens there, because this is the point where the kind of fantasy dreamy thing becomes very, very practical. Like, how are you taking these people with
Right.
all of these different beliefs? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
You told us that everything is plus and minus. Okay, we got that. Now you want us to talk about it. But this person is on a high, that person is on a low. This person doesn't like how that one looks. This person maybe everyone's on a high
Right.
together, but then maybe everyone's on a low together. So what are the kind of principles that you set up, that are set up?
Right.
Like, let's talk about how that works.
Right. I think, you know, even though we've been as practitioners of the method, we've been doing this for years. Every time that I'm in a workshop, and every time that I see new students practicing this, there's a magic that happens, and I also think that it's like an elevator, the workshop. It's a tool, it's a device, you know, that can take you as deep as you're willing to go. That's basically what happens in a workshop, because you're sitting with the rules, the basic rules, without, you know, going into a whole lecture on it, is basically that we're trying to make sure that everyone is heard. We're creating a dynamic where no one person has a bigger say in any way, not in terms of how long they speak, or not in terms of their role. Everyone is equal in their role. What's the role? Contributing to the center of the circle, basically contributing to the unity that comes from the specific differences that each and every one has. And when you go one round, and then another one, and then another one, if you've done this, if everyone is working on that, and you're doing that work towards the others correctly, you begin to feel like you don't really know where you start and the other ends. You begin to feel like there's something that flows. There's like this one wavelength that is starting to flow between you, and that wavelength is expressed in the different words of each person and the different mentalities that each person brings. But it's a single wave. It's a single kind of frequency that just runs through the workshop, runs through the circle, and then you start hearing through your friends that are sitting with you in the circle, through their words, you're starting to literally hear parts of yourself. You begin to recognize that it's not other people that you're talking to, that it's actually parts of yourself that you're making contact with. And that is the mini model of how all of reality is built. All of reality is actually a part of you, and in that circle, you can discover it. And we use all kinds of words for it. We call it opening your heart, bringing the others into your heart. But really, at the end of the day, you have to. There are these moments when you feel it, and that cannot be communicated. It just
Cannot be.
It cannot be communicated. There's just no words. There are literally no words. Kabbalists have been trying to explain this, and the words that come out are things like, love thy friend as thyself, and reality is one, and we're shattered pieces of a single thing, and it'll sound something like that, but you gotta feel it. You really have to feel it, and when that feeling dawns on you, it just does something that everything falls into place. Everything makes sense. You understand why we're all different. Why this whole shattering, as we call it in the wisdom of Kabbalah, the fact that we feel different, with the purpose of that, how there's benefit and purpose in the fact that we don't see each other as the same. We don't see that we're in the same boat. We don't see that we're interdependent, because now we can reveal it. We can step into it of our own accord, into that unity, into that harmony.
It's fulfilling.
Yes.
That part is fulfilling. And
Yes.
you couldn't have that fulfilling if you couldn't bridge that gap. If that wasn't there, then you wouldn't have that fulfilling that exactly touches that place
Yes.
that was empty. And the whole reason why people come to those events anyways, because they're like, I think that this empty place that I have inside of me can be filled by this somehow. And that somehow,
Right.
I guess, is
Right.
through. But why is it that why can't you just take 10 random people off the street,
No,
put them in a
this is the
circle?
point, Chris. This is the point. That's the
Okay, good.
prerequisite.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about it.
That's like ding, ding, ding. The we are working first with people. It doesn't matter, like we said, doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter your weight, doesn't matter your sexual preference. But what does matter is that you have a point inside of your heart that says, I need to understand why I'm living. And this, I can't sleep without this answer. I need to know I am not, without that, there's no one to sit at the table with. So, there is other things that we can talk about for, in the workplace or among politicians, but that's not what we're talking about now. We're talking about the vanguard of humanity. We're talking about the tip of the spear of humanity, this spiritual avant-garde of humanity, whoever you are out there who has this point inside of you. Now, imagine you're sitting with people from whatever religion, whatever background, whatever nationality, and you're sitting together. You've just learned something about life, and now you're given a question. Okay, think about it, everybody who's here with us. Here's your ground. Here's the kind of the rules. So I don't want to. We need to come up with a better word than rules. But here's the rules of what's going to happen between your circle right now. Everyone's going to speak from the heart, not from the mind. You're only going to speak about the unity that you want to happen. Everyone's going to speak concisely. No one's going to go off for minutes and minutes. Everyone's going to speak very concisely. And when others are speaking, you listen. You don't think about what I'm going to say next. We don't criticize after someone speaks, and we don't comment on it. Oh, I really love that. Or, I don't really. No, each one just adds their piece. Every time it comes around, everybody contributes something. Nobody sits out. Everybody contributes something. And then the right answer, the new revelation, comes from that. You put in milk and you put in sugar and you put in this and you keep mixing, and then you have ice cream. Like, you just keep adding these ingredients and keep going around like this, and something appears. But Chris, to answer what you posed there, what was the question? Is like, why can't you just take 10 random people off the street? The prerequisite at first, the goal, the final goal, is all humanity will be included, and we'll get the help of nature to make that happen. But it starts with this small group who feels the need for this.
Yeah, but it's the ultimate question. I mean, we're gonna need to do this on the scale of humanity. That will have to happen, but it can't. It has to start from this kernel, from those very different people who feel a very similar question inside, the yearning to connect to the source of life. And when they discover that the source of life is in unity between them, in the connection between them, above their differences, where their differences complement, and they find that they resemble the life force that's in nature, when that happens, then it can start rippling through the system to more and more and more people who didn't have the need to find the source of life to begin with. Yeah.
It is special whenever you see someone for the first time. Let's say that you just found Kabbalah or whatever, and then for the first time you see someone in real life who you can recognize somehow, you recognize within them that, hey, they want to attain, they want to reach, they want to feel, understand, fulfill themselves also with this same thing that I feel. And maybe I like pizza with pepperoni and he likes pizza with pepperoni, but it's like, okay, yeah, you like pizza with pepperoni. Like who cares, right? But then you see someone who is like chasing this thing and it kind of just blankets everything else. And when you can see that in another person and like you physically, you're, close. Yeah. Like here on chat or, online, like Zoom, it's different. But when you physically come close to someone, it's like,
There is something
you
about
can
that.
you can feel that
Yeah.
this is how it's going to happen. Like when you get to like in the,
True.
talking about solving world wars, you're like, oh, this is like the very like the seed is planted, the taste is
you
there
see the
a little
seed.
bit like,
Yes.
this is how it
I
happens.
could see
Yeah.
how it could work.
Yeah.
Could work. Yeah.
That's what, in that moment when, let's say, you're in a workshop or you're seeing a workshop from the outside as an instructor, and you see that people can actually reveal the unifying force of nature between them. They can touch it for a second. They can kind of okay. When that happens, you're looking at the seed of the future society, of the future humanity. You're looking at the kernel, the beginnings, the embryonic phase of what will later become all of mankind. It just becomes evident. It becomes, that's clearly where evolution is taking us. And Kabbalists have been discovering and writing about that for millennia. But in our time, that's where it needs to go global. And we're at the starting of that, or the beginning of the last generation. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I felt an air there, being with all of the friends and everyone who came from everywhere. There's a feeling that someone needs, like you see someone walking with two bags, you're like, let me carry one. You're sitting down at the table and you're going to take your plate to go like clean your dish.
Mm-hmm.
You see someone else's plate is empty. You're like, oh, I'll take that plate. Like all of a sudden there's just this, I'm going up to get a coffee. It's like, anyone need a coffee? It's something.
How could it be that I'm doing something only for myself?
Yeah,
Right?
you start to feel like I'm interested in everyone having a good time right now. I'm interested in helping, and it's no one's saying like, oh, we need to move all these things over here. Can you just start to be in this? And it's normally like on a normal work day, it's like I'm not going around the office asking everyone who wants a coffee right now. And when it comes time for me, like I'm not offering to clean everyone's dish after lunch, but you're in such an environment where you don't feel that you're getting shorted by helping anyone. You just that something switches.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
It's like every day in life, in your ordinary life, you go out of your four walls, go out of your house. You're on the defense in one way or another. You're like, okay, who's gonna screw me over?
Who's trying to screw me today?
Yeah, exactly. What should I be watch out from? If you're, and if you're a boss at work, it's your employees. If you're an employee, it's your boss. If you're at, you're commuting or something, you're holding on to your stuff. Whatever it is, you're always on the defense. You're always there's a signal of hostility that you have to kind of cope with. And in an environment like the Kabyu retreat, all of a sudden you're like relieved from that. It's like, oh, and then you find that your motivation to life changes. Yes, it's just 3 days and it's a limited, it's this specific environment, but in there you can see how humans could flourish and fruit out. I'm not sure what's the best word to describe it, but like grow out of themselves a different kind of behavior and thoughts, and all of us, because your motivation to life changes. You start seeing that, but by serving and contributing to everyone, I'm not deleting myself, I'm realizing myself. By contributing to everyone, by serving to everyone, I get a certain high. Literally, you get like, I'm high on serving. I don't know how to call it. You're high on just your literally your blood flows differently. I don't know how to say it. You're when I'm in such an environment, I feel like all that I want is just to be that healthy part in the body, and then rejoice in the well-being of the whole body. You start kind of um, feeling outside of yourself, as if you're living outside of yourself, and yourself is just this very narrow, limited thing, and coming out of it is what you're meant to do. It's what you're designed to actually experience. That's where the expansive, bigger than life, bigger than yourself kind of godly feeling is. That's where it is. And we only find it in coming out towards the others, in coming out towards the connection between us, living in that space between us. And in that environment, you can do it. You can feel it. You can actually,
There's a power. There's a
yes,
some kind of supporting. It's a supporting environment. That's why we all say the environment is the most important, and that kind of experience is like closes the book, seals the deal. You say, yeah, that's
Chris.
That's how
we after the when retreat just ended, and we were packing up, and all the instructors and staff members who kind of worked on the event and put it together, we kind of stood in a circle. I don't know, maybe for half an hour or something like that, and we were just sharing like very deep spiritual impressions, and I think everyone felt that that's the greatest thing. It's not like the instructors made it happen, or the people who, there is literally, all of us, everyone who came, every student who made a choice of free will. I'm sure that every person who came to that event had a choice to make. And it wasn't necessarily an easy one. Maybe easier for some,
had to overcome
harder
something.
but there had to be, some kind of point where they had to grab themselves consciously and say, okay, I'm going for it. Or I have a disturbance, I have a challenge, and I'm overcoming it, and I'm going. Or I don't have any challenge, but I have to decide. There's a free will is involved in everyone that came there. And what happens is, it doesn't matter what role you're in, and whether you're an instructor or a student, or someone doing tech, or someone doing music, or the band, or there is this one force greater than all of us that's running the show. Nature is running the show, literally, and we're just making room for it. That's what we all felt it. I'm sure we all felt it, and at that point, you really see how there is no differences. There's no one person or a few people who are doing things. Everyone's a vessel for the same light that appears in it. Everyone is a piece of the vessel, and when we're coming together, a greater force, greater than all of us, appears there. And that's the unbelievable power that this kind of event has. I don't know if there's more words that I can use to express this.
Probably not. Well, I mean, next year there's going to be another one, right? So anyone who's listening now didn't make it, maybe start thinking about it now. You got a year to prepare, and a year to think about it, and a year to say probably not for me, and at the last moment change your mind. Whatever it happens, you can bring that story and share with everybody. Then you come. Cool. Yeah. Nice.
It's really hopeful and optimistic to have experienced something like this, to see that it is possible, to see that it is happening, to see that this is where humanity is going, because the option is endless wars. Endless. Not just between religions, but within religions. Not just between families, but within families. And not only that, we probably all feel the war going on inside of ourselves, between our own opinions and our own decisions we have to make. The war is going to hit every cell until we reveal this force of connection that will enter into the system, will become revealed to us, and will raise us all together, where everyone belongs, everyone is a friend, everyone has food, everyone is warm, everyone is happy together. So, friends, we'll be here talking about bringing in this new world Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Kabbalahinfo on YouTube and Facebook. And guys, it was really fun to remember this event and think about what it could be. I'm so grateful to have friends like you.
The kernel of the new humanity. That's what we've witnessed in the last weekend. The seed for the future, and also the realization that the future is inevitable. Human connection is inevitable. How we get there, that's up to us.
So don't wait till next Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, don't wait till next Thursday. We've got plenty of material on the internet. If this doesn't suit you, find the one that does. You'll see that it breathes new hope into you. If you feel hopeless, stay connected, and we'll see you again next Thursday.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone who joined us for this show. I'm seeing a bunch of friends from Bangalore and England and France and Salt Lake City and Oregon and Pakistan, I think. There's some Philippines. A bunch of places joined us today, and that's again the beauty of people with what we call a point in the heart, people with a true need to discover life's purpose. They tend to come from very different places around the world, and there's a reason for that, probably. Ethiopia, hey Yoka,
Ethiopia, nice.
Yoka from Ethiopia. That's awesome. That's awesome. We're creating this environment together every Thursday to get a little bit of taste of nature's unifying force of unity, of harmony, that synchronizes our hearts to a spiritual heartbeat, and that heartbeat will be the beginning of a new humanity. Thank you, everyone. Seth, yeah, there we go. 2 p.m. Thursday.